Good afternoon and welcome to our Goizueta MBA and Rollins School of Public Health MBA MPH joint degree discussion. Oh, it's a mouthful. My name is Angela Vostek. I will be your moderator for the day. I'm the Associate Dean of Marketing and Communications here at the Goizueta Business School. And I am joined today by a number of people from both the Business School and the School of Public Health to have a great conversation about the MBA MPH program and opportunities for prospective students. So we're going to hear from staff, from faculty, and from current students on the program and its specifics. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. The chats are definitely meant to be interactive, so please feel free to submit your questions via the chat window as you're thinking of them, and I'll make sure to get them fielded to our participants as they come along. If we can't get a chance to get to your question on air, I've got folks off air who will be able to answer some, and then we'll be able to follow up post-chat as well if we're not able to get all of them covered. So without further ado, I'm going to get us started talking a little bit about the curriculum portion of the MBA MPH program. And so I have with me, I'll let them introduce themselves, members of our Goizueta Business School and the Rollins School of Public Health, and then faculty from both sides. So,
hello, I'm Kathy Woolenzine, and I'm the Senior Associate Director at the Rollins School of Public Health.
Hi, I'm Harriet Ruskin, and I work with joint degree students in the MBA program here at Goizueta Business School.
And hi, I'm Steve Culler. I have a joint appointment and a faculty member in both the Rollins School of Public Health and the Goizueta Business School.
Wonderful. So we're going to talk a little bit briefly today about the MBA MPH program schedule, and Harriet's going to kick it off for us talking about the overall look at the schedule across the 3-year time frame. So Harriet?
Yep. So for the joint degree students, it's a 5-semester program, and all of them start in the business school doing our core curriculum in the first semester and taking electives in the second semester. The third semester is over at the Rollins School, taking mostly core curriculum there, and then the spring semester is starting to get into electives, some core. The final semester, which is the 5th semester, is mostly back at the business school. We'll go into more detail about what the classes are and how the flexibility works, but it's 5 semesters, 3 semesters at the business school, or the equivalent of, and 2 semesters at Rollins.
Wonderful. And we're going to talk a bit more about the curriculum coursework.
So when you start as a first year in the MBA program, you're taking all of the same core courses with all of the regular MBA students, and you're assigned a section within the program, and you're covering the course content of economics, accounting, finance, marketing, leading organizations and strategy, process systems management, structured problem solving. There's a class that is management practice. There's communications component. So you're taking all of these classes, and they run in 3 blocks, so some of them start and stop at different times, and you're assigned to a team, so you'll be just like a normal MBA first-year student. In the spring semester, you're going to be taking electives here at the business school. You do a special seminar that's called a mid-semester module that's required for all students, and taking a leadership class, leading with emotional intelligence. All of our first-year students take an MP elective class, and Steve Culler will talk about the healthcare MP elective when we get to that part.
Fabulous. So before we move, I want to make sure we cover the fact that the first year of the MBA MPH program really does model and mirror the first year of the business school program. So what are some of the benefits that prospective students can see in sort of being able to be fully immersed in the business school curriculum?
So the students do get all of the focus on the careers, understanding what the healthcare careers are from a business side. They'll be looking at it from more of a public health side when they're over at Rollins. So it's a good balance of understanding more on the consulting side and some of the more traditional healthcare careers through our Career Management Center, through our CMC. And then the other things that you'll be doing, which we really like, is that all of our students come from different backgrounds and have different career goals. And so you get a sense of how different businesses operate, what different systems are like, because healthcare is really unique in the way that it operates. And it's good to have perspective that's broader than just healthcare.
And then before we leave off the first year, this question related to the electives that are here. So the electives that are mentioned are business school electives, correct?
We have a few electives that are specifically in the healthcare area, and Steve's going to cover those when we get to that part, but the majority of them are in our different areas: finance, accounting, organization and management, information systems, operations management, and accounting.
And how do the students, and who would they work with to determine what might be a good subset of electives to take based on their career interests?
Right. So there's a variety of ways that students will be doing being advised. So they can meet with Steve Culler, one of the faculty members. They can meet with advisors in the business school and over at Rollins School, because they're going to be thinking about their courses holistically and understanding what they're learning at Rollins and what they want to get out of the business school. So they'll be meeting with either Kathy or one of the other administrators over at Rollins School. We have a healthcare club, and so they do a lot of peer-to-peer advising with students who are already in the program, as well as alumni. And then, of course, working with our mentor program, working with alums who are already out in the community, understanding what their job requirements are and how to prepare best for that.
Fabulous. So I'm going to let's go ahead and move over to the second year of coursework. Not that the first year isn't a lot, but after you've digested the first year, you'll move over to the second year, which is over in the Rollins School.
Yes, and the first thing I want to clarify is I'm the dual degree liaison for Rollins. However, I'm the advisor for health policy and management. So this sample curriculum we have here is if a student chooses HPM, which is health policy and management. However, students do have the option at Rollins to choose the global health department, epidemiology, behavioral science, health ed. And so if you wish to choose another, we have advisors like myself for each department. So we're kind of broken down into as 6 schools within the School of Public Health. So a sample for the first fall semester, if you're an HPM student, is you can see here we have several core classes like the environmental health, behavioral science, health ed, global health, and you can take a business elective or some of these core classes while you're enrolled at Rollins. And then when you move to the spring semester, it's a little more set here in HPM. Again, if you choose a different department, for example, global health, instead of the capstone requirement that you will be required for HPM, you would be having a thesis requirement. And all students are required to do a practicum, which is something relevant to public health, but it's outside of the school, so you would go even with the option of going abroad or staying here in the States, and it's a minimum of 200 credit hours.
Great. So there are a couple things to tackle in this, because I think this is a great kind of example of how you start to move into the elective elements of it. So if I'm looking at the fall semester in year 2 over at the program, but year 1 for their time over at Rollins, there are specifically classes that are required. So it looks like there are probably 2 elective opportunities that are during the year, and then 3 required classes. Is that the same across all of the different 6 schools if somebody was interested, or are there differences?
And that's the difference to be clear on. If you're interested in doing this, we would have you contact each department advisor. And so I would put you in touch with them just to make sure, because each department has different curriculum because it's based on that department. However, electives are allowed to be taken when you're in the School of Public Health. You can take electives across departments, step outside if you're an HPM student, and take an environmental health elective. So we're open to that in order to enrich the learning experience.
Fabulous. And so the students would be moved into this. At what time do they have to decide what classes they would be taking, or kind of declare what track they would want to go down? Are they halfway through the first year in the MBA program before then, or is it prior?
Preferably, we would like for students to apply at the same time you apply at the business school, and you'll hear more details about this later from the admissions panel. But they'll apply to both, so you start at business. We love to know if you're doing both the dual degree. However, students are allowed to apply in their first year of MBA, because you may come here and then understand that the dual degree option is something you may be interested in. At that time, then you would be in contact with me, for example, if you're interested in HPM, and I would be like, here's the courses you need to take to help allow you, if there's flexibility across each year where you're housed at the time.
Fabulous. So when I'm applying, if I were applying to the dual degree, MBA, MPH, I am applying to both programs at the same time, but I'm not necessarily specifying which area of MPH I'm interested in studying.
You do and the thing just so make it confusing.
I'm sorry.
But it's a MBA, you apply separately. MPH, you apply separately. But on SOFAS, which happens to be the application process for the School of Public Health, you mark on there your first choice of department. For example, if it's global health, or you mark HPM as your second choice or your third. So whichever program you're interested in, you will be evaluated. So each department evaluates that student based on acceptance or denial by department. So yes, you have to mark and pick, and then if you decide you wish to change prior to coming, you'd have to be reviewed by that specific department.
So that's the portion that would determine what your actual fall and spring semester requirements would be.
Yes.
And then what your kind of elective opportunities would be across the board.
Exactly.
Okay. And the practicum that you discussed, we actually breezed over it pretty quickly when we talked to Harriet as well about the first year of the business school program. It's similar to the idea that there'd be an internship. The practicum is sort of an off-campus, non-related experience. How do they differ or compare?
It's a little bit different because the internship for the business school is actually optional. It doesn't carry any course credit. So there's not a specific number of hours that you have to work. It doesn't go onto your transcript. We do have great placement with our summer internship program, and almost all of our students do summer internship, but it's not a degree requirement. And so if you wanted to study abroad for the summer, or you're going to take additional coursework in your first summer, that would be allowed. It's different because at the Rollins School, it is required. You do have to register for it. That goes onto your transcript, and you have to satisfy it as a part of your degree requirement.
Great. I think that explains sort of the differences between the two of them, and the idea that there's one that's more work-related and one that's more practicum and sort of coursework related.
Well, it's practical experience, so it's to get them out in the field and be able to tie in what they've learned academically and apply it out in the field.
And what are some of the examples, I would say, of what the practicum would have been in the past, either in your area or other areas at that?
Other areas, it's very similar, like when I have dual degree students, MBA, they'll say they've worked somewhere and done consulting, then they come over and they're like, Kathy, can I have the option to actually do that? Yes, because in HPM is more health policy and management, is more the business side of public health, but if you're in a global health department, you may do something and go abroad in order to collect data to in turn work toward your thesis.
Okay.
So there's lots of different areas. We'll do nonprofit, profit companies. So it varies across the board. A lot of health policy and management will go into the insurance side and work with Kaiser or Humana, things of that nature.
Okay, and the last thing before we leave this and go to the third year, the business school's first year is broken up into blocks.
First semester.
The semesters are different over at public health. So is it all those courses that are there are just the full fall semester, correct?
Yes, that's correct. That we're not on the block system. That's correct.
Right. And for the business school, we're only on blocks for the first semester, and then we go to regular full semesters after that.
So that's why, don't be overwhelmed by the first time you looked and saw all of these classes listed and you're like, how am I going to do all of that in the first semester?
Right.
The blocks fade out, but and again, it becomes a semester system across the board. So wonderful. So then in the last case, and you're back to your kind of third year, assuming the same example of being a health management.
Right.
What would the third year look like?
So the third year, you're enrolled back in the business school, and so again, you have 3 semesters of official enrollment over at the business school and 2 semesters at Rollins, but you can trade classes back and forth as long as you're meeting all the degree requirements. And so for the last semester, you'll be mostly back at the business school taking electives. You'll be finishing either the thesis or the capstone or anything additional requirements you have back at Rollins. So you'll be taking classes from both schools. Probably you're taking most of your electives here in business, but depending on how you balanced your previous semesters, you might be taking some classes over at Rollins at the same time. So that's where meeting individually with an advisor, going through what your class options are, understanding what your career goals are, it really helps because that'll help determine what classes you take in the sequence.
Fabulous. So I know there's a little bit more details around the idea of the electives, so I'm going to go ahead and let us transition over so Steve can talk about the electives that are available in healthcare in the business school, which sort of bridges the gap between the two.
Yeah, we actually have currently every year we're teaching 4 elective courses in the business school, and we sort of like to think of them as courses that build off of that core we've already talked about in that first semester. So we're applying strategy, operations, and marketing to the healthcare industry specifically. And so usually in the spring of your first year, you would take my Introduction to the Business of Healthcare, which is an overview course of the different sectors, how they interact, how they deliver healthcare in the United States. Also in the spring semester, if you're interested in operations, we have an operations course, healthcare operations and quality and technology, that sort of touch all those healthcare business tools in the operations area. In the fall every year, we teach a strategies course. It's called Strategies in Healthcare Organizations. And again, that one focuses in on advancing those core strategies topics to specifically how they work in the healthcare industry and the not-for-profit industry that most of the providers are in. And then there's also in the fall a course called Innovations in Healthcare that is essentially a marketing course that talks about how you go from bench chemistry to actually having a blockbuster drug or medical device built. Starting this spring, we will also have a MP course, management practice course in the area of healthcare. And again, this course requires, every MBA student is required to take one MP course in the spring. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
And so you have a choice this year of 7 different areas. Healthcare is one of those 7 areas. We believe we're going to have 3 projects. They're going to vary from looking at referral patterns at a for-profit cancer institute to something at Emory Healthcare doing international healthcare delivery to a community-based healthcare organization delivering public health basically in on a homeless shelter. So again, a variety of very interesting topics. The goal of those, all 3 of those programs, is to allow students to answer in a group a real business issue and actually apply everything they've learned to that point in the core courses to the healthcare practice. And then, as we've already talked about the spring semester, there's also a healthcare module in the spring mid-semester module. It's on IT and transforming healthcare delivery systems.
Great. So
Yeah.
before we leave this, I think there's a question that typically gets asked. We've already kind of gotten it today.
Yeah.
The idea of whether an MBA, MPH dual degree is better than just possibly taking electives in business. That, you know, when you're in the MPH program. So seeing the list of electives that are here in sort of the robust nature and knowing all the ones that exist in the MPH program, you could say and argue that either would be fine to do by themselves, so why would you need to do it dual? Are there some takes you guys have on why the curriculum structured for a dual degree is preferential or better than that?
Sorry.
I mean, I like to think about it as that you sort of get the best of both worlds. And so if you're really interested in working in the healthcare delivery system or healthcare policy, the MPA, the courses at Rollins really give you that detail of how the typical person working in healthcare thinks about the U.S. healthcare delivery system, how policy gets formulated, and how healthcare gets paid for. Whereas if you're interested in doing a job that is more from the business end, then because you've went through the MBA program, you have those tools and skills in the MBA program that allow you to compete very competitively in the job market for those jobs that require more business skills and less policy. So I think in that way you're very attractive on either side. It just depends on what your passion and interest are.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that that we do meet individually with students to talk about what your background was in healthcare already, because you may have had undergraduate courses in healthcare or had a previous career, or if you're a career switcher going into healthcare and what area you're looking at. Definitely when you do the dual degree program, you get a much broader basis of understanding public health. The core courses at Rollins include biostatistics and epidemiology, and if you do something where you're taking just the MBA program and electives, you're not going to get that breadth in terms of being understood by industry executives and having the prestige of really understanding a deeper knowledge that comes from the joint degree.
And I think that's a good lead-in to sort of not just if you're doing a joint degree program, why you should do that at Emory. So Steve, I know you're going to talk a little bit about why Emory is superior in its MBA, MPH program.
Yeah, and again, I like to think of from the big picture down. We start with Atlanta. People talk about Atlanta as being the public health capital of the world, and that's more than just the CDC. We also have the Carter Center here that does a lot of international healthcare delivery and issues of the underserved worldwide. On top of that, if you just start with the Clifton Corridor, you have the CDC. We have one of the largest academic medical centers in the United States, delivering care in a large university hospital on campus, which is just a couple blocks from the business school. And then if you think about going on, we have a number of medical societies that have their headquarters in Atlanta. We have a very, very large and growing technology association of Georgia that has a very large HIT, Healthcare Information Technology group that's really become active and world leading. And then when you start to think about taking classes, In both of the programs, you're talking about taking relatively small classes, 20 to 40 students at maximum. We have tremendous alumni participation, especially in the healthcare area. The students have been so active in sort of creating the healthcare track in the business school, and the students at Rollins are very, very active also. And we do have a healthcare club at Goizueta that does 2 annual events every year. One is a healthcare forum where we bring in a panel of experts and talk about what's going on in the healthcare business and delivery system. And this year we're going to talk about how the Affordable Care Act will actually be implemented and what problems there's going to be in that first year of implementation. And then I think the other thing that's really important for people is that over the years we've developed a really good relationship with the Emory Healthcare, and so there's a lot of opportunities to do directed studies where you would actually work in a department, either in Emory Hospital or Emory Clinic. And again, these are great opportunities that you can take them for credit or you can take them independently, but there are opportunities to actually work on a individual department business problem for a semester.
Right, and so when you're thinking about kind of all of these different opportunities, they definitely place our school far and away ahead of a lot of other programs for what they're able to offer jointly.
Yeah.
We did have a question about whether the joint degree was different than possibly doing like a master's in healthcare administration or something, you know, kind of in a different realm. So this is definitely a very business-focused element and benefits of why you would do a master's in public administration. But Kathy, what are your thoughts on sort of whether the joint degree makes more sense in that realm?
Yes, it does. And as Steve, I'll piggyback on what he said earlier, by definitely getting the public health perspective, it makes you have a more balanced perspective of understanding, getting the core classes across the school. So when you're out and speaking about epidemiology, you've had a course and you're allowed to take additional classes to build on that as well. And then in comparison to an MHA, that's structured completely different because it doesn't pull in the public health side. So in the combination of doing an MBA, MPH, I feel the student is more well-rounded with a knowledge base, which is strong from Goizueta, as well as the Rollins point of view on the public health perspective.
Fabulous. And so I think the last thing that everybody's thinking about when they're looking at all of this is you get a great experience, you get great education, you know, it's wonderful background. What do I go do, right? So so some of the questions we've gotten is sort of like, how does this degree prepare you for things? And so Steve, I know you've got some information specifically about the kind of functions and companies people have been in.
Yeah, and again, I think that, I like to think about this, that really your career opportunities are only limited by your own imagination. I mean, you're really, really set up very well to pursue whatever interest or passion you have. I know this year we have a couple joint degree students who want to run NGOs when they graduate, and so they're very interested in going to Rollins and doing the global health concentration that Kathy talked about as one of the options. So again, what people end up doing really depend on what you're interested in. A couple years ago, we had a joint degrees person who really wanted to manage a Washington department, and so again, they were very, very interested in government work and actually being head of one of the departments in health. I think he's working now at the Congressional Budget Office. So again, there's a lot of opportunities that way, you know. But again, as I said before, I think you're well positioned to do either the management stuff because of the MBA or the public health stuff because of the policy or global health backgrounds.
Great, and I think the great part about this is the curriculum you describe and sort of all the background really does mean you can be very varied in your interests and still be able to have this degree serve a multitude of purposes.
Yeah.
So I
And
definitely
let me just also say, I mean, students have been very, very competitive at the elite consulting groups, so in the healthcare areas, so that's really a testament to how well the curriculum's put together. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And to Harriet's point before, that the idea that there has been great employment opportunities for MBA, MPH students across both sides of it, I think that's really what is dramatically kind of drawing students to us, is being able to see the positive outcomes.
Right.
I thank you guys for joining us for this portion of it. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys transition because we're going to talk to some of the students next who are actually going to be able to sort of bring this portion to life for you guys so you can understand what it's like to actually be in the seats and in the classrooms, both here and at Rollins during those 3 years, and give a little bit more perspective on those clubs and activities that Steve had mentioned, but also on the career opportunities and how they are looking to do so. I should say while we're taking this brief break that as the students are coming to sit down, if you're having any connectivity issues, you can make sure you hit the hide show video button and it should refresh and clear it up. You guys are doing a great job of submitting questions. I appreciate it. So if you continue to send them in, we'll tackle them either on air or via the chat window that you'll see here. And then of course afterwards, if there's anything that's left out, we'll make sure we follow up with them. So without further ado, with the quick switcheroo on camera, we've got some of our MBA, MPH students here joining us to talk today about their experience, and I will let them introduce themselves.
My name is Mark Thomas. I am a first year in the dual degree program specializing in global health. My background is a bit all over the place. I spent some time in management consulting, and then for the past few years I have been running a nonprofit that focuses on integrating technology with healthcare in developing countries. So I'll be able to speak to some of your questions related to the application process and some of the earlier stages of the program.
Great.
My name is Josh Arnold. I'm an MBA and PhD dual degree as well, focusing in health policy and management. My background is actually in life sciences and biology. I managed a stem cell lab before coming back to school and kept me interested in pursuing life science technologies. That's why I'm here to get my MBA and focus also in health policy.
Great.
My name is Jessica Murphy, and I am going to be graduating in December of this year from the dual degree program. My background is in public health and nonprofits, and I'm going to be focusing on healthcare consulting and biotech companies in the Bay Area after graduation.
All right, so I'm going to preface this entire conversation by saying that I know little to nothing about healthcare. Know enough about the MBA side of it. If you throw in some marketing jargon, I'll be okay. But in general, I know the students or the prospects want to hear a little bit about how you guys found yourself ready to do an MBA program or MBA MPH program. And as you were looking in that process, and again, I know it's most recent for you, but not that long ago for you, Jessica.
Yes.
What were some of the things in your mind that let you know, yeah, I think I'm ready to do a master's program and I want to do a dual degree? Mark, you want to start?
Sure. So this was sort of particularly relevant for some of the work that I was doing. When you look at designing health interventions in developing countries, you sort of want to evaluate them from two different perspectives. One, are you generating positive health outcomes? And then two, are you doing the project in a way that's sort of sustainable and financially viable in the long run? Which was really just a perfect combination of the two skills you get in the two programs. And so for my interest, this was really just sort of an invaluable program. I can speak more specifically to Emory's program just because of their strength on the public health side, coupled with the strength on the business side, is there really weren't many other competitors when you look at sort of what I wanted to do with the degree.
Great. Josh, your thoughts?
Yes, so mainly I came back to do the dual degree because I was actually managing a lab in stem cells that was more like running a small business. And I didn't have any practical business or any official or educational business experience from my past. So I wanted to come back to school to build out myself in terms of marketing and finance and accounting, so I could actually, really know what it takes to run a small business and potentially do a startup in the future if I wanted to as well. And being that it was a life science company I was working at, I've always been really passionate about pushing forward new medicines, and the public health side and the health policy side will actually help me to understand how we can make new medicines and new technologies affordable and accessible to folks, not just within the U.S., but around the world, so that we can make some huge differences for those folks that do need it.
Great. Jessica?
Yeah, so my background, as I mentioned, was in public health and nonprofits, and I had spent some time in patient education in a nonprofit clinic, and I was also working in process improvement. And so with those two ideas in mind, I thought MBA, MPH, process improvement, and public health education. And so while I really liked the inner workings of the program and the hands-on aspect of it, and being day-to-day working with my patients, I really was trying to have a broader understanding of how the clinic functioned, and needed to understand from a business perspective how that would play out. And then also as ACA was coming around and as all of the debates for reform were becoming more prominent in the news, I thought it would be pertinent for me to pursue the MPH so that I could understand the legislative impact and legislative implications on any business that I was in the future.
Great. So all of you had sat down and realized why an MBA in PH would make sense, why Emory's MBA in PH would make sense for you, and you're all, fabulous candidates, so you start here in the program and you get here. At what point did you start to really be able to refine and hone how the program was going to be able to sort of help you? Meaning, what classes would you take? What kind of experiences do you want to collect? And what was your process of refinement to get you sort of down to where you are today, Jessica,
Yeah.
knowing sort of what you want to do and sort of looking backwards, how you're continuing to refine that story? Jess, you want to start?
Yeah, so my trajectory is a little bit different because I came in as a global health student and switched through in the middle of my first year to the health policy track. So I would say that once I had gotten in through the core classes at business school, my interests had sort of shifted with all the things that I was learning. I was, my interest had sort of shifted more towards a U.S. focus. And so that was sort of where I started to look more at the health policy curriculum and how that could play out with my internship search. And I think that having conversations with professors and really trying to stay engaged with the other dual degree students was instrumental in me defining and refining my search and my MBA and PH path.
And you found that process wasn't challenging for you to sort of be able to make
No.
that change, variably midstream, if you will?
Yeah, so I would say that the professors are all on both sides of campus, on both the school public health side and the Goizueta Business School side. Everyone is very eager to help you. I don't even want to say that they're just willing. I mean, people, they really want to help you chart your own course, and that was what I was looking for. And so the support from the professors, the administration, and from my fellow business school students and school public health students, it was more than I could have ever expected.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So Josh, for you, how are you refining that in that process as you're, sort of moving towards that almost out of the door stage?
Right, sure. So first, I'd just like to agree and echo with what Jessica was saying in terms of the support you get from the faculty here and a lot of the alumni. But for me personally, I was really just trying to find where I would fit in functionally. So I found that I really enjoy marketing quite a bit, as well as an entrepreneurship aspect. So I think I'm pretty entrepreneurially minded. So I wanted to dive in as much as I could with our resources here in terms of thinking about startups. Not just pulling ideas out of the air, but potentially running with them, and where those ideas could apply within healthcare or within life science technologies. So I continue to do that today in terms of my course selections, the electives that I'm taking both here at the business school as well as in the public health school, to really kind of hone in on areas that are going to make me stronger in terms of marketing and taking something from potentially bench to bedside, as you may often hear, so that way in the end we can actually have patients and folks in need that are able to use a lot of the products that could come out of a company or startup.
Great. And so Mark, you have the benefit of being the person who just got here through the first 2 blocks of the first semester.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's
So
right.
the
Still
first,
standing.
still standing, still breathing, and to your point, with a very different kind of background. So when you went through the process and decided to get here, what has been your process of refining what you want to take and how you want to make the MBA MPH experience unique for yourself?
Sure, and you certainly come into the program with preconceived notions of every class that you're going to take throughout the time here. I mean, just flipping through the course catalog, pretty much every course looks fascinating. I have the luxury of having the vast majority of the program ahead of me, and so I'll get to choose what I take. But it is interesting, even earlier on in the program, how you watch your interests change and your trajectory will. I mean, Jessica spoke to this a little bit, but even just a few months in, I can already start to see, for instance, taking the economics class in the core curriculum in the business school, I start to think about how that affects financing of healthcare delivery in developing countries. And oddly enough, there's a course on that over at Rollins. So you can sort of see these things that you may not have seen before, but as you're exposed to them, your interest grows, and it's also nice to sort of see those reflected sometimes in the other school's curriculum as well.
Great. I mean, I think that the great thing about the background you guys are bringing is that it's very, very different, very vast, and you guys have figured out your way, but that you've all spoken to the idea that this is a great environment to do that in, to be able to have sort of that flexibility and process. And so That's wonderful. Aside from the classes and the electives, what are some of the other elements of both the business school and public health that you all have taken advantage of or are looking forward to taking advantage of that you feel are going to round out or have rounded out your experience?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and start. Because I fell in love with Emory pretty quickly upon my visit to campus, I really wanted to give back to the school, and so I worked really closely with admissions as an ambassador chair. So all the students who got to come on campus for a lunch and learn or a campus tour, I got to interact with them and help coordinate all of those efforts. And I think that by leading that program, I got to learn even more about the program because I spent a lot of time asking my fellow classmates about their experiences and leading panels and sitting on panels. So I feel like I really got a good sense of what was going on at the business school, even though I wasn't necessarily going into investment banking, even though I was not, I was not on a finance track at all or going into corporate finance. I feel like I have a really good sense from my involvement in campus activities, namely through the ambassador program. So I would highly recommend, getting involved if you do decide to come to Emory. It's so easy to get involved. There are so many leadership opportunities here. And then as far as the School of Public Health, there are a lot of different interest groups. There's a group called HOLA for people who speak Espanol and they want to learn more about Latino health in the Atlanta community, which is huge. So that's just one small example of how you can be involved both at the business school and at Rollins. And I think that those opportunities that are available to you are they are going to shape your time here, and I think that they'll be invaluable.
You got a chance to have a good experience across the last couple of years to kind of fully get into that.
Yeah.
Are you finding yourself with enough breathing room now, kind of having gotten through a full year and in the middle of your second, right?
Right.
So been on both sides of it now. What are some of the things that you've experienced that have been beneficial for you?
Sure. Last year, when there was not as much breathing room, I was involved with our healthcare association here at Goizueta. On the leadership team there, helping to plan some of our events. We have a healthcare competition each year, so that was really a fun thing to do, and made a lot of connections with folks that are within Emory's communities in terms of Goizueta's alumni, as well as outside the Emory community and experts in the field, consultants, other professors, etc. Since then, this year I'm actually on the leadership team for the Entrepreneurship Club, where we're really getting an earnest effort and a strong following from people that are interested in startups or working for startups or even venture capital. That is an area that, in terms of entrepreneurship, we're really strengthening, and we have a strong team that is extremely interested and there for the students, not just ourselves who are on the team and in the club, but those who we want to bring in who want to see startups occur or go to work for one. And two other things. One is I'm actually on the Global Health Institute Student Advisory Committee. So it's led by students that has the support of faculty and Global Health Institute staff. Basically with that, we are able to bring in different speakers for seminar series. We are also organizing a global health case competition, and it's been extremely fun with a lot of different collaboration from folks around Emory, not just at Goizueta, but also through the law school, through the public health school, and even through Emory College. And the other thing is I've this semester stepped into some uncharted territory really for Goizueta MBAs. I'm also doing a mini internship at the Office of Technology Transfer. So this is an office here on campus that takes a lot of the medical devices or biologics that are coming out of Emory's scientific labs and looks at licensing options and patentability opportunities so that different technologies, be it IT software or actual instruments for surgery or proteins that could potentially be used as therapeutics someday, can be sold to other companies or even spun off into startups out of Emory. And really with that, I'm looking at how to better commercialize these different products and write technical briefs so that way people who are seeing a technology for the first time can become more interested and make inquiries into deeper information about what the technologies have to offer.
Right? And it sounds like a lot of that has been facilitated by just the general chemistry, as Steve was talking about, kind of the Clifton corridor and just all of the activity that happens between med school and law school and business school and public health. That there's just a lot of opportunities that sort of bubble up to have collaborations across the graduate and even undergraduate sides of it. So that's wonderful. Mark, you've got to be salivating of thinking about all the great things you're looking to go do. So extracurricular wise, were there some things that attracted you to the school in particular, or some things that you're looking to even maybe create on your own as being new opportunities?
Sure. I mean, Josh mentioned the global health case competition, which is hugely exciting for someone with sort of my unique blend of interests. There's another group on campus that I'm starting to get involved with called the Health Innovation Lab, and this is sort of similar to how Josh talked about the interdisciplinary approach. It's a group of students who are just interested in improving the way healthcare is administered, both domestically and abroad. They come from every school here at Emory, so School of Medicine, School of Nursing, all top-notch programs, in addition to public health and business. And while there is faculty guidance, this is clearly a student-led initiative. They'll do their own design of projects, their own evaluation of them, and so this is a really exciting opportunity to get some hands-on experience with some of these ideas that you learn in the classroom.
I wanted to make a quick plug.
Of course,
for,
plug away.
A great program. So a lot of people who come into the dual degree program come from nonprofit backgrounds, and they also want to continue to be engaged in that space. But then also at the business school, you may find students who have no nonprofit exposure at all whatsoever. So there's a wonderful program that we have here at Goizueta, and it's called the Goizueta Board Fellows Program. And this is where you basically come in and you can sit as a non-voting member on an area nonprofit, and you can do a consulting project for them for the course of 1 year. So it's usually about a 10-month deal. And so you get to see how nonprofits function, how the board operates, and with the end goal of hopefully making you a better community leader and having you be more engaged in your own community, whether it's in Atlanta where you land or elsewhere. I think that this is one of the highlights that we have here for extracurricular activities. And if you do come to Emory, I hope that you'll apply to that program.
And I think as I asked some earlier questions about kind of having a background in the nonprofit space and what does that do to sort of coming into a business environment and coming from nonprofit. You came yourself from a sort of like more nonprofit background.
Yes.
What was that like for you in the process, and how do you feel that it impacted kind of the way you look at business?
So I think that you definitely have a unique perspective. I think that one thing that really drove me, I have sort of this gregarious attitude, and I think that was why I had gotten into nonprofits to begin with. You wear a ton of hats, you see a bunch of different aspects of this nonprofit organization. And so I think coming into a business school where some students might have been in one particular function, I think that sometimes the students from the nonprofit background have a broader perspective about the way that a small organization runs. And so you get to share with the other students how your experience has shaped you, and then learn from them as well about what their perspective is from a larger organization. And it's those conversations that you have in the classroom where this information comes out and you can have discussions or debates, and it really enriches your time in the classroom.
I think that's wonderful, and I will, in addition to your plug, I will share that you can find out more details about the Board Fellows Program, which is under our Social Enterprise at Goizueta Center, by visiting our website and looking under the research centers. Social Enterprise at Goizueta is hugely involved in a number of activities that I think cross-reference and go along with a lot of the things that are in people's backgrounds for public health, but a number of other entities, and just really speaks to the fact that one of the benefits of being in a dual degree program, MBA and PH, is that there are a lot of seemingly ancillary or secondary things of interest that when you tie to the actual curriculum you're getting really can influence and enrich sort of the experience in a very different way than if you were just doing a concentration or taking a few classes. Truly being immersed in it, it can make it a much more robust experience. So in terms of robust experiences, I know one of the things we asked Kathy was about the practicum. And this is very different from an internship standpoint. So I would love it for those of you all of you still have practicum to take, correct?
I'm on a little bit of a different track.
So for those of you who are plotting their own course, but also looking to start planning your practicum, what are some of the things you're thinking about? And conversely, or also, what are some of the internship opportunities you've either done or are looking to get into, and marrying kind of those two things up? So those are different types of real world experience, if you will,
Right.
but both things that I think really are the benefit of getting the MBA and PH program. So Mark, you want to start on sort of your long-term goals?
Sure. So in terms of internships, a lot of what attracts me is sort of the way global health programs are designed, and a lot of that is based on how they're funded. And so I'm looking at, and again, coming from the nonprofit background, I certainly know sort of the grantee relationship, but I don't know much about the grantor or grant maker relationship. And so some of the internships I'm looking at are perhaps a little off the grid, but things like the Gates Foundation, or here locally, the Woodruff Foundation. And just the connections that we have from the school to some of these institutions are incredible. I had coffee yesterday with the president of the Woodruff Foundation. They have about $3 billion in assets, that connection was made through the kind of the staff that we have here at the school and the professors. So I'm looking at some of these different internships, and I'll tie that in with my practicum by looking at some of the more on-the-ground aspects of global health programs. So that'll give me a nice rounded perspective of how these things are funded and supported, and then also how they're managed on the ground.
Great. Josh, how about yourself? I know you did an internship at Emory Healthcare, correct?
That's right. That's right. So this past summer I interned with Emory Healthcare, the Emory Clinic Tech, as we call it. And I was basically doing a marketing and IT project, building out the website for the OBGYN department in specific, or in particular their OBGYN residency program, which was a great experience for me. I wasn't a marketer before, but I am now, being a life science guy. I had a little bit of marketing opportunities and experience in my past life, my last job, where I was doing some online web design to really put the face of our company out front and show our brand, which actually enabled me to do the same thing in this internship I had this last summer. With that, though, I wanted to also understand what it is that healthcare companies think about. In this instance, it was Emory's hospital. What they think about in terms of how they can better serve the patient, a lot of the different aspects they have in terms of their operations as well, and their financial considerations in order to better serve the community. For me, that could potentially be a customer later on if I were to go into a biotech or a pharmaceutical company, or even a startup company. So I really wanted to try to see how I could marry the two different sides together and understand what it is that a great healthcare system like Emory is actually providing, and all the considerations they have that go into running a really smooth operation.
Great. And Jess, you did your internship also in pharmaceuticals, correct?
Yes. So my trajectory is a little bit different because with the dual degree, you get to do 2 summer internships. So you have the opportunity to do an internship or a practicum or 2 summer internships. So I opted for the 2 summer internships. And my first experience is what qualifies as my practicum experience. So I was interning at Humana in Louisville, Kentucky, and I worked in the Innovation Center for them doing retail channel strategy. And that sounds very businessy, but I chose this internship specifically because I was able to apply my public health experience and the things that I had been learning up until that point to my internship. So I got the opportunity to sort of consider about how we partner, how we take PCPs, so our primary care physicians, and partner them with wellness facilities. So the idea was to think about new delivery models for our Medicare population. And I think that internship was the perfect way to mold my 2 experiences at the business school and at the School of Public Health. And then most recently I was at Johnson & Johnson's Janssen Pharmaceuticals doing pharmaceutical marketing for more my business internship experience. And I think that being able to apply sort of this strategy development mentality with Humana and then couple that with my product management pharmaceutical marketing experience with Johnson & Johnson is ultimately the kind of the best way for me to go launch my career in healthcare consulting, which is ultimately what I'm trying to do at this point. And in all of my interviews, I would say that the MBA MPH has set me apart. And I'm really proud to say that I am almost done with this program, and I would highly recommend it to anyone.
It's awesome. See, that's a wonderful closing plug. I cannot ask for a better transition point. I think to Jessica's point, I really do think that as you go through it, there is so much value that's seen across those 3 years. And just being able to decide, refine, and figure out how you want to. But in any case, I think all of you guys will have a chance to stand out versus some of your peers simply because of the vast resources and curriculum and courses that you've been able to have here. So best of luck to you guys. We're going to do another dress rehearsal change, right? So we're going to let the students go ahead and move off, and we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about the admissions process, right? Because by now you've got to be salivating and figuring out how you can get into this amazingly wonderful program. And we will have members of our Goizueta Business School and Rollins School of Public Health Admissions here to talk more specifically about the process. How do you get enrolled? How do you decide? What are the timelines and dates and such? Kind of the nuts and bolts so that you guys can get ready, because I know that after hearing all this great information, there probably are none of you who are not excited to get started. So I am joined on air by our admissions folks from both schools, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Sure. Welcome, my name is Libby Livingston, and I'm Director of Admissions for the 2-year program at Goizueta.
And hi, my name is Prudence Goss, and I'm the Director of Recruitment and Student Life at the Rollins School of Public Health.
Great. Well, I know we're going to talk a little bit about the profile here at Goizueta, so I will turn it over to you, Libby.
Great, thank you. So we're going to start with admissions at Goizueta, and I think that earlier in the chat we did, the question came up about applying to both schools, and typically that's what students do, is that they will apply to both schools at the same time, and then you will start the program in the business school. And I know we've outlined kind of that process. But want to start off sharing just about the profile of our class. And on the slide, you can see the profile of the 2-year program as well as the 1-year program. But the joint degree, the dual degree, MBA and PH, is with our 2-year MBA program. So just to highlight, it's a pretty small program. This year we enrolled about 157 students into the 2-year. And you can see the GMAT range, and if we do have students that take the GRE, and that's completely fine, and I will address that here in just a moment. But GMAT, GRE, but you can see the GMAT range. We do not publish GRE ranges because so few students actually take that. But you can definitely put in your GRE score into a comparison tool, and that you can just get online and can find out if your GRE score, if once converted to a GMAT score, if it falls within our range. And that's our 80% range. So 10% of students are below that, and 10% of students are above that. And then we also have information about our GPA. That is based on your undergraduate record, and then the average years of work experience. So for our 2-year program, it is 5 years. The range, there's always ranges around work experience and GMAT scores. The range is usually 3 to 7 years. Our students fall within that range of work experience. So now I'm going to kind of focus on the different admissions factors that we look at here at Goizueta. And the first is looking at your academic background. We're definitely going to be looking at your undergraduate record, as well as any other coursework that you've had. If you've taken a course, a summer course, we want to see those transcripts. Or if you've taken some coursework since you graduated from undergrad, or if you have a graduate degree, you'll want to send us all those transcripts. We look at the school that you attended, as well as how you performed and the courses that you've taken. And we're going to be, looking at any quant classes that you've had as well. So, but if you don't have to be a business major to be considered for this program. All majors are considered. We also are going to look at your test scores. We offer, students to take the GMAT or the GRE. We do not have a preference. You can take either one. And as I've already mentioned, if you do decide to take the GRE, there's a comparison tool that you can put your score in and see what it is as a GMAT, and then you can kind of see if that falls within our range or close to our average. Our average is a 680 for the 2-year program. When it comes to test scores, definitely take your highest score. We do not average your scores, and we see students that will maybe take it 2 or 3 times, and that is fine. You're not only being considered for admission, but you're also being considered for scholarship. So students, if they feel that they're capable of a better score, then definitely take the test again. Okay. And then work experience. We definitely do like to see full-time work experience. A lot of our students that come into the MBA and PH may not have the average years of work experience of 5 years, but most will have at least 2 years by the time they enroll. So if you have 1 year now, by the time you enroll in our program, you'll have 2 years. So most have at least 2 years. And we're going to be looking at the quality of your work experience more than the quantity. We're definitely wanting to see the progression that you've made and the impact that you've made within your company or your organization. And we require 2 recommendations. There is an option for a third, and we want those recommendations to be from your professional work experience over a faculty member. So definitely think about experiences that you've had within your full-time work, or maybe you had an internship that you would want to get someone to recommend you, but definitely from your professional experiences. As well as essays, we have 4 essays for you to complete, and definitely spend time on your essays. We definitely read them. Some tips, just be sure that you proofread. I think sometimes it's helpful to provide your essays to someone without the question and see if they can, tell you what the question is, to be able to, make sure that they're very concise and succinct and complete. We also definitely look at leadership that you've been involved in undergrad, your college experience, as well as since then, and even now in your work experiences. Maybe you're involved in a club or an organization within your company that you want to, you want to share with us. We would definitely like to hear about your leadership experiences. As well as an interview. We do require an interview for admission. We have open interviewing right now up until November 20th, so you can come to campus, or you can request to meet us in a city near you. That information is on our website, on our worldwide recruiting calendar, but you can definitely make a request for an interview during this open interview period. If for some reason you cannot interview with us before that period ends, then you can apply, and then we will review your application and then can offer you an interview at that time. So all of these factors we look at during the admissions process. There's not, we don't have a weighted application. There's not one area that dominates. We really are looking at everything and a combination holistically in making decisions. Okay? And then we're going to move on. I want to share the deadlines that we have. We actually have 4 rounds, and our first round was last week, and that's really for candidates that are interested, really, that Emory's their first choice and that they want to be here. And the candidates that applied during that round are have to let us know fairly early. You find out in December, you're notified of the decision, and then you have about 2 weeks to turn around and let us know your decision. And we also have round 2, which is in November. And then round 3 is in January, which is actually our most popular deadline, and our scholarship deadline. And then our round 4 is our final deadline. So just a couple of highlights about the rounds. The round 2, definitely students that are international students, we prefer for them to apply by round 2. As well as if students are interested in being considered for some of our top name scholarships. It's great to try to get your application in at round 2. For round 3, it is our scholarship deadline. All students that apply by that deadline are automatically considered for scholarship. And it is possible, if you apply in round 3, to be considered for some of our top name scholarships as well. And then I'm going to move on to scholarship and financial aid. I have some additional information to share. I did touch on you do not need an additional application. By completing your admissions application, we're going to automatically consider you. You can see the different items we need to have a completed application. And I mentioned round 3 is kind of the scholarship deadline. Round 2, if you want to be considered for named scholarships. Our scholarships typically range from 20 to 100%. The 100% scholarships are quite competitive, and but all students, will be considered, and a good number of our students actually receive scholarship. Your decision about scholarship is released at the same time of your admission decision. So when you get your admission decision on the release date, you would be notified at that time if you've also received a scholarship. And our scholarship, we really focus in on your entire package. When we're looking at your application, does this candidate merit a scholarship? And really we're looking for individuals that are above the average. Candidates that are going to get a scholarship are above the average. And we also look closely at your leadership experiences, things that you've done kind of outside of your work or in the community or in undergrad, roles that you held within student government or through nonprofit organization. Definitely like to see the leadership. Most students that get a scholarship have strong leadership skills. We also have financial aid options, so even if a student gets a nice scholarship, oftentimes they're interested in being considered for loans, and that is definitely possible. You can apply for financial aid loans, as well as international students can apply for loans without a U.S. cosigner. So, students can have a combination of scholarship as well as loans, and then, you can take out what's needed for you to get through school. So that's really, scholarship and financial aid. And then, kind of want to touch on just connecting with us. So obviously you're here today and participating in this webinar, which is great. We also have another webinar tomorrow on the 2-year experience, which could be really helpful because this is the program that you're going to be coming into if you decide to do the MBA MPH. We also have an open house this Saturday, and I mentioned that because you can also watch a webcast. So if you're interested, you can go on and register and just register as a webcast attendee, and then you'll be sent the link to actually watch the information session live on Saturday. And I think that gives a nice overview of our program. The Associate Deans of Admissions and the Career Center, as well as the Program Office, give a nice overview of the program, sharing our great career results, as well as a faculty member doing a kind of class simulation for about 30 minutes. And we also have some student speakers, so I think that might be something you want to tune in for, as well as we have our diversity conference in Goizueta at the beginning of November, as well as a women's event in mid-November. So definitely connect with us. There are ways on our website to connect with our current students. I know we had a great panel of current MBA, MPH students today, and if you're interested, I know that they would be happy to answer any questions, as a follow-up if you have any additional ones after the webinar today. So I'm going to pass it on to Prudence so that she can share information about kind of admissions when it comes to Rollins.
Thank you. So I'm just going to review our application process very quickly, and it does sound very similar to the things that Libby mentioned as well. Some of the same elements are there, but we do have some distinguishing factors and features that you need to be aware of. First and foremost, we use a centralized application service called SOPHIS, and that stands for Schools of Public Health Application Service. And that is where you're going to submit all of your materials for the School of Public Health to review your application. And so you just go to www.sophis.org, or sophis.com, and that is where you're going to go and complete your application. So that's the very first thing that you need to do, or that you can do to apply. Applicants, on our application, you'll notice that you can rank up to 3 departments that you want to have your application reviewed by. Applications will not be reviewed by all 3 departments at the same time, but it'll be reviewed by your first choice first, and then it'll move to your second and your third choice if you're denied or waitlisted to the previous choice, we also need all the transcripts that from all schools that you've attended. 3 letters of recommendation, and those can come from supervisors as well as from academic references as well. Standardized test scores, and the GMAT is accepted in lieu of GRE, and so a lot of students coming from the business school tend to take the GMAT more often than not, and so that is something that you don't have to do. You don't have to take both the GRE and the GMAT. You can just take one of those standardized tests. A personal essay. We want to really hear about your background, your experiences, why you are interested in a dual degree, those kinds of things, how Rollins or Emory in general can help you to reach your career goals. So we really kind of want to hear about you. We want to see research, leadership, work, honors, awards, all of those different things that you have that distinguish you as a candidate. And for international students, international applicants, we will need the TOEFL scores. All transcripts from non-U.S. universities should be evaluated by WES, must be evaluated by WES. And upon acceptance, a financial certificate which shows at least 1 year of funding for your year for the time of study. So that's if you're an international student. So as I mentioned before, RSPH will only receive applications that have been completed and verified by SOPHIS, so nothing needs to come directly to the school. Everything should be submitted through the SOPHIS portal. SOPHIS does request 2 to 6 weeks for verification, so that just means verification of your, if you're an international student, of your transcripts, and of course if you're domestic as well. So verifying and completing all information takes about 2 to 6 weeks. So it is important to also be mindful of when you start the application process. You just want to make sure that you're completing everything in a timely manner. So just allow yourself time to actually work on and complete your application because of that period of verification that's needed. Which brings me to the priority deadline. of January 3rd. And so our application process is a little more simplified. So we have a priority deadline that happens on January 3rd, and that's for anyone that wants merit scholarship consideration. We do still accept applications on a rolling admissions basis after January 3rd, and that's on a space available basis. And so we continue to accept applications all through July and everything, but we do always encourage students to make sure that they complete the application as early as possible. Those merit scholarships are reviewed. Merit scholarship consideration is reviewed, of course, by the department, by the academic department that you're looking to apply to or looking for admission into. And those are competitive, but and we award about 40 or so a year, and so it's just, you know, it's just important to kind of keep that in mind to put forth the strongest application that you possibly can. At that time, we also encourage people to go ahead and apply for financial aid, complete the FAFSA. FAFSA always opens up on January 1st, and so while you're applying for admission to the school, it's just important to do that, because then you're considered for all of our need-based grants that we have, of course loans, and then we also have a program that's very similar to federal work study called the Rollins Earn and Learn program. And through that program, students have the opportunity to gain applied public health experiences in settings such as CDC, American Cancer Society, all different agencies that we have here in Atlanta. So the Rollins Earn and Learn program is something that that's very important to kind of keep in mind as you think about your whole entire application process, as well as the financial aid process as well. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of give you the long-term expectations, what you can expect as you move through the process, and let you know kind of how our application cycle and process works and what happens. So first, you are going to submit your application to SOFIS, as I mentioned. Once that application is submitted and completed and verified and all of that, it then gets transmitted to the Rollins School of Public Health's admissions office. Our admissions office then distributes the application to your first choice department. And the department reviews the application and all the materials that you've submitted. And then after that, the department reviews your application and then submits the decision back to the Rollins School of Public Health's admissions office. So there's a little bit of volleying back and forth there. But then finally, admissions will notify you of your status via Opus, which is our database or system that we use to communicate with students. And so if students are waitlisted or denied to their first choice department, then they'll receive another email from us indicating that their application has been routed to the next choice. And so that's sort of what you can expect in the range of the entire application process. So our class profile is something else that I wanted to share with you all as well, just to give you an idea of the diversity and the measures that our students have coming in, our averages. So we have the largest incoming class that we've had of 560 students that started this fall. 42 of those students were dual degree seeking, and that includes all of our dual degrees, so medicine, business, everyone. Average GPA for those with both graduate and undergraduate degrees was an average of a 3.5. Average GRE scores was a 157 for both verbal and quantitative, and a 4.2 for analytical writing. The average age is 26, and our age ranges from 20 all the way to 60. Our students are coming from 43 states and 25 countries. The gender split is 21% male, 79% female. And in terms of the ethnicity diversity, we're 33% minority students, 17% African American, 10% Asian, 4% Hispanic, and 2% multi-ethnic. And international students make up approximately 16% of our incoming student body. So those numbers and those measures are just things to sort of keep in mind. Libby mentioned something that I also should mention too about our application process, and that is that it's very holistic. So we're looking at every aspect of your application, and so a lot of times students may ask, well, my GRE scores are below the average or my GPA is below the average. But those measures only make up one component of your total application. We're also looking at all these other factors that I mentioned as well. And so connecting with us, if you're interested in visiting or if you just have general admissions advising questions, you can certainly contact me. Again, I'm Prudence Goss. My email address is there. Emily Lakemaker, who is our assistant director, her contact information is also available. And so if you want to, come to campus and visit, or you want a tour of our school, anything like that, then you're certainly more than welcome to contact either one of us to arrange that. Our departments are divided into 6 different departments, and we have one career MPH program as well. But if you wanted to follow up and have any additional questions that are more specifically related to the department, then the link to the website is there, as well as our admissions website. Also wanted to let you know of an upcoming webinar opportunity that we have available. A lot of students also ask us, what can I do to prepare a strong admissions application for the School of Public Health? So on October 30th at 6:00 p.m. we're going to be hosting a webinar on preparing a strong admissions application. So I want to strongly encourage everyone who's here today to also join us for that, because I go over a little bit more in depth about each of the components of your application and how to make them strong. And more information and registration can be found on the admissions site indicated above. And of course, we're on Facebook as the Rollins School of Public Health Admissions and Recruitment.
Great, thank you, ladies.
Thank
I think definitely very helpful to be able to share some of the specifics. For all of you who attended the chat today, we will make sure that the slides from the presentation, as well as the footage from the video chat today, are available to you roughly in about 7 to 10 days. We'll send them out to you via email so you guys can hold on to those as you're going through this application process and sort of reference back. I again would echo Prudence and Libby's comments to attend future webinars that are more specific to the MBA and MPH program. This was an attempt to try to sort of amalgamate all of those portions so that you could hear a little bit of each, but then diving deeper into those will be helpful. I know we ran a bit over, so hopefully this information was very valuable and value added to you. We'll get these emails with that content out to you soon. Thank you to both Libby and Prudence and all of the guests who are here today to talk with you guys, and we hope you have a great day.